I don't love trading against all-time highs because you often get fake outs above. We don't know how much liquidity you need above because once you're above, there's no sellers there, none.
Yeah.
Like you don't got any previous zones to watch,
Correct.
and so in a way you're just like
Yeah.
you're just longing, or you're just hoping that there's that adequate sellers up there that are going to keep forcing the market down.
It kind of.
And I think that's a phenomenal trade, dude.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate your feedback with that because like it was like burning me up. I'm like, all right, like what? And like I think that kind of goes back to what we were just talking about um, with knowing the conditions you're trading, right? Like, and I had the same vibe, right? I'm like, dude, this is all time high, right? Like, I think I even wrote in pre-market plan, I'm like, don't be the first seller or first buyer. Like, and the thing is I wasn't, right? I was patient. Um, and it just is what it is, right? Like no, like you said, we don't know how much liquidity the market needs here, and like then I look
In
at
a way, I would say this is a good setup to re-enter on,
correct,
right? Because your analysis in a way is still correct, right? You were expecting to see selling out of all-time highs. The market gathered a little bit more liquidity, so now it has even more liquidity to make the move that it's
yeah,
trying to make.
yeah,
And I get that, if you have a losing trade and you're that wrong in a way, you're supposed to just step away.
yeah,
But
but yeah,
I think we should not, like, just when we're proven wrong, we shouldn't immediately abandon all ideas of short play and
yeah,
just reverse our position to go long.
yeah,
We can sit back and say, okay, I'm going to let things pan out a bit, and maybe I'm going to be right. Maybe this is just the wrong timing. And I
yeah,
think if we keep that possibility in our mind, without being stubborn, right? Because
yes,
if we had been stubborn, then we would just short any red candle we saw after that. I was right. This is the liquidity grab. I'm going to get in on the next
yes,
candle.
yes,
Look, it's sold off at your level.
I know,
like exactly at the level later in the day that
perfect.
you were watching.
Look at that, it's disgusting. I took that, and then I was to exactly what you're saying. Then I was immediately like, oh, it must be bullish, and then I got in a long play. Then I got stopped out of the long play, and then I was like, okay, I'm done for the day. And then I came back, bro, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, and I was glad this happened. This taught me a very valuable lesson, right? Like, just because you want to be like I don't know, childish, and in like the 50-50 perspective works amazing, right? But it's not supposed to be as cut dry as if this doesn't work, do this, right? Like it can't be, right? Because that's not how the market it's just not how the market works, right? So instead of creating a philosophy like that, you got to look at it like, okay, what level are you playing, dude? This it's fucking all time high. You know what I'm saying? Like know your environment, right? And like you said, be patient, right? And take a step back. Don't necessarily have to make up the money you lost.
I'm gonna write this in my journal because this is very important. I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
be willing to admit that you had the correct analysis, but the market just needed liquidity,
Yeah.
and you're just in the wrong. You just entered
Time.
at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Because what that can do is that will allow us to then be more patient and wait for that analysis to pan out, and
Yeah.
then we'll be good to enter later in the day.
Yeah.
Because, dude, we have a very in-depth understanding of the market and what we want to see at different levels. But what we don't have an understanding of is how much liquidity the market needs. Like, unless you're working for fucking Bloomberg or some of these quant firms, you don't know. You
Yeah.
don't know all the information
No.
behind how much liquidity the market needs.
No.
So just because you have the right analysis doesn't mean, or just because you get in a short trade there doesn't mean you're entirely wrong. It could just mean that you don't see, whatever these quant firms are seeing.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to, if we're proven wrong, just be willing to stop out, but then also don't be so quick to abandon your strategy.
Yeah.
Be patient and see. Maybe it's going to play out.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would have said, like, obviously we saw an EMA cross to the upside. We saw a bounce off the cloud. So up until Wait, that bearish target? What's that bearish target,
Oh
friend?
no,
Because I thought this is all-time highs.
that's from later in the week. That's when we gapped
Okay.
up above it. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
nothing.
there was nothing up there,
Nothing.
right? There was
Yeah,
nothing up here.
nothing.
So in a way, if you hadn't taken a short play there, if you had taken that long off of all-time high, I wouldn't have really blamed you that much.
Yeah.
But then as soon as you stopped out, you would have been like, okay,
Now,
this is
yes.
a fake out above all-time highs.
Yes.
Then you would have been good to reverse your position
Yes.
and then take the opposite side.
Yeah, and this is just like, you know, on when stuff like this happens too, you got to be like, okay, like, if I'm gonna walk away, remember, anytime you're walking away, and it is hard, right? Because you know, I have the new rule of 2 losing trades means I walk away, but at the same time, right? Like, understand what you're walking away from, right? If you're long, anytime you're in a position that doesn't work out for you, it's for a reason. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes that reason means it's gonna go to the other imbalance. And just so happens this other imbalance was $10 away, or no, my bad, it was like 6 or whatever it was. And just, you know, like, be aware of that, right? Like, you know, it is good.
This is where statistics come in too.
Exactly.
If you look back at your journal and you say, okay, the majority of my losing trades are happening in the first 2 hours of the day. What does that mean?
Yes.
Well, that probably means that I'm rushing. That
Yes.
probably means that I think that the money setup has to happen before 11
Yeah,
a.m.
yeah.
And if you go back and look at your journal
It's
and
not.
the evidence is showing you that you know, the majority of your losing trades are happening earlier in the day, before 10 o'clock, before 11 o'clock, that has to tell you something.
Yeah.
That has to tell you something.
Yeah.
If it's not, then you're not being completely objective.
Correct.
And you know,
That's
what I seen on Fridays.
Well-
I seen on Fridays. If this was a Friday, this would be perfect alignment with my journal. It's
Yeah.
just, this is what we saw in the mornings, and this would be during the live, and I would get stopped out, and then I would be done for the day, and then the nice move would happen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man,
Yep.
I was just rushed in the beginning of the day, and
Yeah.
I was just fucking buckshotting trades because I thought the move needed to happen in the morning.
Yeah.
You have to be open to the move happening at any time during the day.
Yeah, it's crazy, bro. All of my best trades happen after 11 o'clock. All of them. Like, all my most paying trades literally happen at around this time. From 12 and beyond. My real sweet spot is like around 1:30. 1:32, trading SPX. I literally capture some of the biggest trades. And it's like, I have to ask myself, right? Like, why are you forcing stuff so much in the morning? And obviously there's tons of factors, right? It's, you know, you don't want to neglect the morning completely, right? You don't want to. One issue I ran into was seeing my edge present itself but not take it because it was the morning and I wanted to save buying power or, you know, mental capital for later in the day, and then forcing trades later in the day. So I don't want to be at a point where I'm ever forcing anything. I just want to, you know, remain super objective, and like you said, look at the journal, look at your statistics, and then make adjustments according to that, right? Like, you know, I like to keep most of my buying power for later in the day, exactly for this reason.
I mean, if your journal is telling you that let's just say on Wednesday or Tuesday you tend to rush,
Yeah.
and then you're not trading according to that, or then you go ahead and you rush a trade and you make a reason why you should rush this trade, then you're just, what's the point of journaling?
Correct.
Then there's no point of journaling if you're not going to act on it.
And ready? That's the definition of repeating something but not learning from it. Bam.
Exactly.
That's that. So anytime you're trading from that state, you're no longer learning. You have now brought it back. I'm so happy we talked about this today. It's literally a major breakthrough. Like, unless you're trading from a state of intentional behaviors, right, that you've identified in your journal that you should make based on your results, unless you're trading from that state, you're literally just trading for thrill, and you're just repeating bad behaviors.
Yeah. I remember Alex Ramosi gave this analogy And he said, look, like being smart is not just binary. It's you can ask yourself, how smart are you being? And the way you can judge that is by how quickly you learn from something. Like if somebody puts a candy on the table and you reach for it and they smack your hand, and you go back and you take it again and they smack your hand, you know, you might go back and you might reach for that candy, you know, 4 times, and then on the 5th time you're like, all right, I'm stopping.
Yeah.
But the measure of how smart you are becomes how quickly do you learn from that behavior. And the smartest person is the person who reaches for the candy and gets smacked and then
never does it again.
And just never does it again.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how quickly do we learn from our mistakes? And this applies to just life in general.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, this is not specific to trading at all, but it's just like something to think about.
Well,
you know,
you
have to be able to adapt.
Bro.
And trading is a complicated example of this, because we know that even if we have a losing trade, in a way we have to go back and be willing to do the same thing again.
Right.
But there's a fine line between not listening to our journal and then like if we listen to our journal and go back and have a losing trade, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if we go back and have a losing trade and we find out that we didn't listen to our journal,
that's a problem.
That's just dumb. That's a
problem.
Yeah.
It's a big one, bro. It's a really big one. Another analogy I actually heard on this was crazy. They had rats, where there was like 2 paths, right? And this one path led to like food or some sort of like enjoyment, and the rats went down this one path and they got fed and they left, and then they took away the food and put something that shocked them there. Right? And then the rats came back to down that same path and would get shocked. And then they would run away. And then they would come back and touch it again. And then they would run away. Then they would come back literally until they died. Until they died, bro. Because that one time they got food there. And that literally gave me chills when I heard it, because I was like, bro, that literally represents my first 2 years in this market. Was like that literally was every single trade I took. I was taking from a state of, oh, this worked for me this one time, so this is where I like, that was my default mode anytime I was about to click that buy button.
Yep.
It's like
basically I know that's the video that I sent about playing poker, and it's
was that where I heard it?
Yeah, I think that was in that video
bro.
that I sent.
So good.
But like, I think it's and Lex said it in that podcast. He said, what that shows is that you're overgeneralizing your lessons that you learned from those wins. Like those rats, all they could think about was that the fact that they had cheese there, and they were putting so much weight on the fact that they found cheese there, and they weren't thinking about, okay, I could potentially die, or how many times hasn't this worked? Like they weren't thinking about. It's just like when you're so focused on a red trade or on a short, and you see a green candle, but it doesn't mean anything to you, because all you're looking for is that red candle.
Next red one. The next red one.
Exactly.
Oh my god, it's so heavy, bro. It's so heavy. This is really good, bro. This has been really good. I think on that note, I need a little. It's exactly what I needed, bro. I needed to talk about it. I appreciate it, Darren. It's really, really good stuff, man. Like it's so powerful, bro. Like, and at the end of the day, the number one answer is go through your journal and learn. Don't be that rat. Like, I don't care what trades you made last week. Your best move going forward is reviewing whatever trades you took.
You still there?
Yeah, can you hear me? Did you lose me? Yeah. Is it? Can you hear me now?
You cut out, bro.
Yeah. It's okay. I'm just gonna finish up, Debo. At the end of the day, just make sure you're learning from. Make sure you're learning from your journal in a way that you're actually learning, right? Do not allow yourself to make the same mistakes, make the same approach, and expect different results.